Raditz was wasted potential. Almost every Dragon Ball fan can agree on that. He was such a cool character, and on top of that, literally the brother of the main character. Yes, he served his purpose in the story, flawlessly in fact, but he could have been so much more. Imagine if they killed off Thanos when he fought the Hulk in the beginning of Infinity War, or if the Joker died after his first encounter with the Batman. This level of opportunity was lost when Raditz was felled by Piccolo. Thankfully, this flame was relit and kept burning with Vegeta, a lot of people's favorite character. But could Raditz have surpassed a level of hype that is the Prince of All Saiyans? Or would he have faded into the background of the Goku and Vegeta show? Find out in this full story of What If Raditz Turned Good. The Special Beam Cannon is still launched. It still hits Raditz and it still does heavy damage. The difference here is that Raditz's wound heals right after it pierces his body. How did it happen? No one knows. But as his wound heals and the beam disrupts, he falls to his knees unconscious. Piccolo sees what looks like a white dragon appear in front of the two sons of Bardock as their lives are saved. Sadly though, he can't properly make out the image as he's completely out of energy, passing out himself. This leaves Goku as the only one left standing on the battlefield, and seeing as Raditz isn't currently a threat, he gets to survive. Our protag would choose to let his brother live, not only because he is a good person, but also to train with him in the future. When the rest of the gang arrives on the island, Goku suggests that they put his brother under some form of anesthesia. Gohan would run onto the aircraft the moment he sees Raditz out of fear, and clings to his father's side when they bring his uncle aboard. Piccolo would have been given a Senzu before they left, and Goku would have taken one as well. After arriving at Capsule Corp, Bulma would put Raditz under, forcing him to stay asleep until they had a plan. A few hours pass, and Goku steps into the room. He places his hand onto his brother's head and begins searching his mind, looking over his past and everything Raditz has gone through. Not only that, but also the Saiyans' abilities, powers like their Zenkai boosts and the Ozaru form, as well as various legends. This means Goku finds out about the fact that he killed Grandpa Gohan, well, a little bit earlier on. Now, you could say that Goku learned his mind-reading power from King Kai, and thus shouldn't be able to do it here. But it's also incredibly likely he learned it from Kami. Even though the Kai had talked through telepathy more in the series, reading people's minds to gain information seems more like a Kami thing. Both are definite possibilities, but I'm going with Kami for the sake of this what if. After Raditz wakes up and Goku is done reading his thoughts, the older Saiyan asks why he can't move. Goku explains that they put him under special medicines that are currently paralyzing him. That way he couldn't lash out when he came to. Besides, it's better that he didn't move lest he risk tearing a muscle. Then Goku goes on to discuss the things he saw inside of his brother's head, the things Raditz might not want to talk about. He asks about Nappa and Vegeta, the things they put him through, and why he even stays with them. Raditz laughs with a slight cough, saying that it doesn't matter how he feels because those two would kill him if he tried to desert. He would question how his younger brother could even know about those two, and Goku casually says that he can read minds, as if that isn't a totally broken thing he'll never use again. But Raditz says he doesn't really care anyway, as in about a year's time, his two comrades will be there to conquer the Earth. However, Goku cuts his brother off, as he already knew about the other two Saiyans because of Raditz's scouter. Not only that, but also that his quote-unquote comrades aren't just coming to kill the Z-Fighters, but also that weakling Raditz. But since Raditz probably doesn't care, Goku will just leave and leave him alone. Although Raditz starts yelling to his brother, not in rage but in cowardice, begging for his help. Goku stops just short of the door, turning back to Raditz. The larger Saiyan says that if they all work together like Goku and Piccolo did against him, then maybe, just maybe, they have a chance against Vegeta and Nappa. They definitely need some training beforehand, but they might have a chance. This was just the kind of thing that Goku wanted to hear, so he calls Kami into the room. The Guardian of Earth steps in and places his hand above Raditz's chest and then over his right shoulder. He heals the Saiyan's larger wounds but doesn't restore him to full strength, not wanting to risk anything. After a few more hours, Raditz is able to move again, and the Saiyan duo begins training immediately. Goku would ask Master Roshi to teach Gohan, as the power he displayed was astonishing and should be properly honed. Of course, Roshi would agree, and despite the reluctance, Chi-Chi would as well, wanting her son to be safe. After a few weeks, the two Saiyan brothers are on an even playing field, not just thanks to the training, but also the sizable Zenkais both of them got. Piccolo would be kept busy by Kami, and the two would have started training together. Yes, together. Kami would recognize the immense threat of the Saiyans, and because there's a year before they arrive, he uses the Dragon Balls to wish for his youth. The increase he gets from having his youth restored would boost him up to Piccolo's level, so they are perfect training partners. After the year passes, the Dragon Balls are regathered and brought up to the lookout just in case. The Earthlings would have been training with Roshi and helping teach Gohan, so they would all arrive on the battlefield at the same time. They would be greeted by Goku and Raditz, who are acting like real brothers, which shocks everyone. Piccolo and Kami arrive last, having just exited the room of Spirit and Time, getting an extra month of training in. Nappa and Vegeta are looming over the rest of the group, and the former plants Cybermen, but Raditz would instantly wipe out all of the little green men with a weekly special. Of course, the two are surprised. Last they saw Raditz, he was barely as strong as one Cyberman, yet he just killed 5. This actually gets Nappa a little scared, as he is only about 4 to 5 Earthborn Cybermen strong himself, but he dismisses this as a trick, or maybe a bad batch of plants. Either way, he launches in to fight his former teammate. Although, much to his own surprise, Raditz is able to keep up with Nappa. In fact, he's making the brute look weak in comparison. Both Goku and Raditz have a power level around 10,000 at this point, so Nappa is fodder in comparison. 10k might seem a little high, but Goku reached a similar level while training alone on King Kai's world. On top of that, Goku only had around 6 months to train because of Snake Way, and he spent a lot of that time learning the Kaioken and Genki Dama, so honestly Goku would be a fair bit stronger here. But because it's possible they could both be a fair bit weaker, 10k seems fair. Anyway, with a meteor combo, a technique Raditz learned from Goku, he'd land Nappa on the ground, his spine nearly shattered. Raditz would apologize, not meaning to go that hard on his former friend. Well, maybe not friend, but close enough. Either way, he feels bad for doing that much damage to someone he was marginally close to. Yeah, Goku is definitely rubbing off on his brother. Surprisingly though, Vegeta doesn't share the same empathy and throws Nappa into the air. Before anyone can guess what Vegeta is doing, the hulking Saiyan would explode mid-air, the culprit barely putting in any effort. Raditz would clench his fists in rage. He didn't care about Nappa, but the utter disregard for life sickens him. It reminds him of how he was a year ago, the person he is trying desperately to leave in the past. With a quick wind-up, Raditz would land a haymaker on the side of Vegeta's head. There's a ringing in the Saiyan's ears for a few moments as he backhands Raditz, sending him to the ground. With a burst of rage, Raditz launches a double sundae that cuts Vegeta on the cheek and cinches his hair. As Vegeta prepares to retaliate, Goku rockets towards the prince, landing a punch clean on his cheek. Raditz gets back up and jumps in with his brother, landing a couple of combos on Vegeta. Enraged, the prince repulses his power outwards, launching the duo away. He's done with them. He's done with them being able to press him. He's the prince of the Saiyans, and these two low-class warriors are not going to shame him with their pitiful teamwork. He shoots up to the sky and charges a purple beam of intense ki. Raditz recognizes the technique and tells Goku they're going to need to counter it or the Earth will be vaporized. Goku nods and gets in position for a Kamehameha, while Raditz does the same for double sundae. Gohan would join in with his father alongside Raditz, Yamcha, and Krillin, and Tien with a tri-beam. Kami joins in, preparing 2 beams in his eyes, and a Kamigami no Senko. or his version of the Masenko. As the combined beams launch and collide with Vegeta's Gallic gun, a massive ripple would be felt throughout the Earth. Vegeta is pushed far harder here, but is still able to keep up. And once Tien and Gohan fall out from exhaustion and inexperience respectively, it's much less difficult. Roshi and Yamcha fell off as well because of how much they were being overwhelmed. Then, as it seems Vegeta might be able to overpower the three beams, suddenly, his gives out. It took a while, but Piccolo finally entered the struggle, but not from the ground like everybody else. He flew up behind Vegeta while charging his special beam cannon, and when the timer's right, Piccolo fired. Sadly for the gang, however, Vegeta was able to react in a split second, not dodging by any means, but moving enough to avoid a fatal shot. Piccolo was going for a headshot, but rather he just blew off Vegeta's arm. After the other beams collectively shoot Vegeta above the clouds, he would scream out in agonizing pain. He uses what's left of his ki to cauterize the wound, stopping drawn-out blood loss and saving his own life. Without enough ki to fly, thanks to the drawn-out beam clash, Vegeta falls to the ground, barely conscious. Kami heals the rest of the gang before they all go over to see what's going to happen to their foe, or what has happened to their foe. Piccolo floats down, his own arm gone, and Vegeta weakly laughs, saying at least they're even after that cheap shot. The smirk fades though when Piccolo regrows his arm thanks to his Namekian abilities. The prince snarls but shifts his gaze towards Raditz, saying that he has to kill Frieza and avenge their race. That is his last request, alongside making sure Frieza's death is long and painful. After saying this, he passes out and the gang aren't sure what to do. Piccolo and Kami agree for once, stating he should be killed, and even Raditz isn't arguing this. Tien steps up, however, saying that Vegeta is just like himself, Raditz, and Piccolo. He might be cruel and horrid right now, but who are they to kill him? He isn't really a threat at the moment. And Goku seconds this, despite Raditz telling him about all the horrible things the three-man squad had done. After all, this is practically the same situation they had Raditz in, and should be handled similarly. Besides, the only person Vegeta killed was Nappa, and he was a bad guy too. So, with their minds made up, Vegeta would be allowed to survive, but not so quickly healed. There's no immediate threat, so he has to recover like a normal person, while everyone else gets strong enough to contend with him on their own. Vegeta would be taken care of by Bulma, the only person with the scientific ability to study Saiyan anatomy while patching him up. This would lead to them having a bit of a spark between the two, and Vegeta finding something he actually likes on this otherwise worthless planet, at least in his mind. He still wants to see Frieza dead, and that is his main priority, but while he's getting healed, he might as well have some fun. Suffice to say, Trunks will be born early here. It doesn't take long for the rest of the Z-Fighters to grow to Vegeta's level. Even the Earthlings would grow quicker, having a goal to strive for. By the time Vegeta is walking again, both Goku and Raditz would have matched his new 24,000 power level. Gohan would have a power level in the 10 to 11,000 range, thanks to having his dormant strength under control. Roshi is an expert at mastering oneself. In fact, it's basically his whole thing. So Gohan learns to use his power to its maximum much quicker here. When Vegeta is able and willing to train, he would make it clear to everyone he's only letting them live so they can kill Frieza, even though he knows that's not true. At this point, he isn't a threat, even at full power. But by the time Vegeta is capable of training, 4 months would have passed and Frieza's already on Namek. Sadly though, no one would know of this. The only reason Vegeta knew in the original was because of Qui, and he isn't able to give Vegeta that info here. So on Namek, Frieza pressures the Namekians into giving him the dragonballz, and speaking his wish aloud. If they didn't, well, the Namekians might end up like all the other species that defied the Galactic Emperor. Guru would try and run out his own clock in time to stop Frieza from getting immortality, but thanks to the Z-Fighters not being there, Frieza had more than enough time to make his wish. To prevent the tyrant from getting any more use from the dragonballz though, Guru has Nail absorb his life essence. With the wisdom of the Elder and the strength of a leader, Nail would try and defeat Frieza and maybe find a way to seal him away somehow. But all that hope goes out the window when Frieza displays his true form, not needing to worry about stamina or killing everyone around him. After all, the only person that mattered in the universe now was him. And as you might expect, everyone on that planet, aside from Frieza himself, was killed in a glorious slaughter, even his own men. Back on Earth, the Saiyans trained to surpass their limits, knowing that Frieza's power clocked in somewhere around the 560,000 mark. They also knew he could transform thanks to Vegeta, and assume it's the same multiplier as Great Ape, although knowing it could be higher. Because of this, their goal was for each of them to get a base power level in the 5 million range. This is something they could only quantify thanks to ki sensing, as scouters weren't built for that level of power. The idea was that each of them was prepared to fight a Great Ape-powered Frieza, yet if he was stronger, Vegeta and Raditz could transform themselves. Same with Gohan. Of course, this is a massive goal, yet one that seemed possible thanks to something Bulma would whip up. Thanks to her and Vegeta spending a lot of time together, Bulma would learn of how weak Earth's gravity was compared to other planets. This led to her coming up with the idea of a room that could amplify gravity for training. Kind of like the way astronauts prepared for low gravity of space, but reversed. This would turn out to be incredibly useful and lead to the Z fighters growing much stronger. Even the weaker fighters, such as Yamcha and Krillin, were able to reach power levels in the 100,000 range. Not only that, but the 5 million goalpost would be within reach, and not just by the Saiyans. Piccolo and Kami would train in the gravity chamber as well, Tien even using it himself to break the million threshold. Speaking of the Triclops, he would be approached by the Guardian of Earth, stating that their plan to take on Frieza had been noticed by the person above Kami. He offers to have Tien and the other human fighters train under King Kai, while the Saiyans and the Namekians continue their gravity training. Of course, they would agree, but only 3 of them can go. King Yama is strict on the rules and doesn't want too many living people in Otherworld. Initially, it was going to be Tien, Krillin, and Yamcha, but then Krillin had an idea. Why not have Master Roshi wish for his youth, like Kami and King Piccolo before him? With a boost in power and stamina, he'd be way more help for the Dragon Team. Although Roshi did like that idea, he'd say he isn't interested in being the student of a Kai until he trains under Kami, something he should have done a long while ago. So Krillin, Tien, and Yamcha would be brought to Otherworld and cross Snake Way in record time. Meanwhile, the Dragon Balls would be used to grant Roshi his youth back, restoring the Turtle Hermit to his fighting prime. Then, with this, Kami undertakes a new student, Mutan Roshi. But not all is well and good, as after half a year or so, 6 space pods arrive on the planet. The Ginyu Force was sent to check out Earth after the Saiyans disappeared there, after taking over Yardrat, of course. Now, even though the Ginyu Force is powerful, frankly, the Z-Fighters are in a different league. At this point, they are able to easily wipe out the squad in record time. However, one of the members of the team would turn out to not be who he says he is. On Yardrat, Guldo had been killed and replaced with Yardratian wearing his appearance as a shield. This allowed him to survive, and although wary at first, the Z-Fighters let him live and welcome him into the group. His name is Paibara, and as thanks for their assistance, he offers to teach them his powers, as well as tell them the info he has on Frieza. They'd agree, and he would inform them of Frieza's new acquired immortality, as well as the destruction of a place called Namek. This info hits hard for Piccolo and Kami, as that's their home world, and come to find out it's been destroyed. With a heavy heart, Kami focuses on training Roshi, rather than himself, as well as upgrading the Dragon Balls so they can bring back those killed by Frieza and his men. After hearing of the deaths of the Ginyu Force, Frieza sets course for planet Earth. Something incredible must be there if his men keep dying when they get there. After a couple of months, he would arrive, and the entire gang is there waiting for him. The Saiyans would have reached their goal of a 5 million power level, and the 3 would have grown close. Of course, Goku and Raditz had already had a bond from the year they spent together before, but now they're extremely close, and even Vegeta has warmed up to the planet, having a son on the way and being a newlywed. With Frieza no longer using his first through third forms anymore, everyone can feel his immense power as his ship lands. Once he steps foot on Earth's soil, the three Saiyans launch at him with emotion and vigor. Of course, even with this rush attack, they can't do much to the Emperor. He more than overpowers them as they are now. It doesn't take long for the gang to realize how outclassed they are and fall back. Hope isn't lost though. They planned for this, Goku creating an artificial moon for the others. The moon was destroyed before to prevent any accidental transformations while the Saiyans were going about their business, and in this moment, Vegeta, Raditz, and Gohan would transform into the fully mastered Ozaru form. The three had practiced to make sure they were able to go apeshit crazy in the fight without actually going crazy. Collectively, they're able to overpower Frieza, but remember, he's still immortal, so no damage really lasts. Although, thanks to Paibara, Goku was able to learn instant transmission alongside Force Spirit Fission, a deadly combo. This means he's able to pop in and out of the fight, taking Frieza's energy and wearing out his stamina. He may be immortal, but he isn't an android. He still has limited stamina reserves and will tire out. Realizing this flaw with his immortality, Frieza aims to finish the fight quickly and not toy around. He powers up a ball of focused energy at the tip of his finger and launches it as a precise beam straight through Gohan's chest. Even with Vegeta's handicap, Gohan was the weakest of the Great Apes, and therefore the first to go. But little did Frieza know, this was his worst mistake yet. As Gohan reverts to his base form and his body hits the floor, Goku teleports in to catch him. The wound on his heart was relatively small considering the size difference, but Gohan was certainly on death's door. His last words would be to his father, asking if he made Goku proud. It was the reason he fought even if he didn't like it, and of course Goku would say yes. Holding back tears, Goku would lay his son down on the ground as the light fades from the young boy's eyes. With a roar of primal, beastly, and legendary rage, Goku bursts into a new realm of power. His hair glows white and gold while his strength surges to a level never previously seen. He is the one and only Super Saiyan. Alongside his brother, Raditz would undergo a similar transformation, his Great Ape body shrinking and his eyes glowing white. He lets out a roar comparable to his brother's, and his hair turns a greenish hue before shattering into the same golden color as Goku's. You might expect this to mean there's more than one Super Saiyan, but at this moment, Goku and Raditz were one man, a super-powered legend, brought forth for the sole purpose of revenge against the person who turned their love to rage. Without even a moment to comprehend what he just did, Frieza is struck with a punch on each side of his face. His jaw is shattered with bone poking through his tongue, yet he is able to heal quickly. But Raditz and Goku continue their assault, each hit not only hurting the Emperor incredibly, but also sapping his strength away. Despite their rage, the Saiyan brothers are still coordinated and brutal. It doesn't take long before Frieza is stained red and barely has any power at all. Kami communicates to Raditz, the person more in control, to bring Frieza to the ground, so they can seal him away. He'd do so only after letting out a bit more of his rage on this glorified punching bag. Goku lands a final volleyball-style slam on Frieza's head, sending him crashing to the ground. He's caught mid-air by Kami and Roshi using the Mafuba, their combined technique sealing the Emperor away once and for all. Raditz is able to gain control over the power and reason himself back to a calm state. Goku, on the other hand, is still in rage. He is a pure soul, yet that soul was infected with rage, so getting over it takes a bit more time. However, after King Kai creates a mental link between him and Gohan, the former is able to calm down basically instantly. Hearing his son's voice brings the love that was taken from Goku back into his heart, and allows for him to mellow out. The gang uses the Dragon Balls to bring Gohan back, as well as the Yardratians and Namekians. Shenron was upgraded to allow for these 3 wishes, as well as for more powerful wishes. Over the next month, Gohan would train with King Kai, even being able to tap briefly into Super Saiyan while there. Although Chi-Chi understandably wants him back as soon as possible, and thus he was only able to get a month of training in. Roshi would take his place though, feeling as if his time with Kami was over, and he was now worthy to train with an actual deity. It is of course a heartwarming reunion when Gohan returns, although it is also somewhat awkward. Not because of any normal reason, but rather because there isn't only one Gohan returning to this location. When Gohan returns home, he is quickly embraced by his mother, and the same with his father and even uncle. They have a massive feast to celebrate Gohan's return to life, and it's a joyous occasion for the family. However, it is interrupted when a spiraling blue light is seen appearing outside. When the 4 run out to investigate, what they see is a yellow machine with a man sitting inside. The man steps out and is revealed to look similar to Goku, as well as having an eerie resemblance to Gohan. This is quickly cleared up as the man states that he is actually Gohan. Well, a different Gohan. Kind of. He is a warrior sent from the future, one who has come back to warn of a threat even greater than Frieza. But that isn't the only reason he's come back. In fact, it was actually only part of it. He gives Goku a capsule containing medicine, for when he starts getting extreme pain in his chest, he should take it, telling him that, in the future, he dies from this. Yes, Goku didn't forget to take his meds. He wasn't supposed to until he had symptoms. It's a cure, not a vaccine. Common misconception, but understandably so. He also informs them of an android threat that will soon arise, from a lone Red Ribbon Army scientist seeking revenge. They are incredibly powerful, but not unkillable. In fact, the future fighters were able to take them down, but had some casualties, one of which being Piccolo, meaning the Dragon Balls were gone, and death was permanent, since no one knew where New Namek was. After dropping all of this heavy lore, Gohan leaves and wishes them all luck, saying he'll be back in 3 years' time. Raditz will be newly invigorated to train, and begins working harder than ever to surpass his limits. Him and Goku train intensively, with Gohan jumping in every now and again. With the knowledge of androids stronger than Super Saiyans, Bulma would give Vegeta a robotic upgrade. An arm that not only works better than his lost one, but also can grow when he transforms into an Ozaru. Sadly, he doesn't get infinite energy or anything, but the arm is still pretty cool. He'd also be able to gain access to Super Saiyan for himself during this training period, but the Saiyans aren't the only ones getting stronger. Roshi is seeing significant gains training under King Kai. The other 3 humans didn't want to spend all their time training, rather exploring different things in life, but Roshi? He trained tirelessly on King Kai's world. It's not like he had anything better to do. His new youthful body, as well as incredible ability at controlling his power, allowed him to use Kaioken better than almost anyone else. This meant that not only would his base power be increasing, but he also got a strength-boosting form all his own. As for Piccolo, he was training his own way, utilizing his practically eternal youth to use the time chamber as much as he wanted, at least after Kami upgraded it. But he wouldn't be spending an insane amount of time in there, lest he go, well, insane. When the android saga arrives, everyone rushes to the area Gohan told them to gather. After looking around for a while, Roshi is the first to find androids 19 and 20, although he wouldn't meet the same fate as Yamcha before him. Roshi instead would power up into Kaioken times 50 for a split second and kick Shuro into the sky. The rest of the gang sees this and rushes over, while Roshi dominates Android 19. It isn't long before the robot is killed and the cyborg is forced to flee. Luckily for him, androids can't be sensed the same way normal Ki is, so he's able to get away. After returning to his lab, the Mad Doctor releases Android 17 and 18. The 2 of whom then kill the Doctor and open his newest creation. And trust me, you guys are going to love the name. Get ready for it, folks. It's Android 16. I know, revolutionary. Anyway, the Z Fighters try to do as their namesake implies and fight against the mechanical menace. Meanwhile, Goku's heart virus would kick in, and thus Raditz is forced to bring him home to take the medicine. Once the battle begins, everyone is shocked. Even with all the prep time, they still couldn't overpower the two teenage Terminators, and thus they themselves were outmatched. Lovely alliteration, I know. Either way, even when Gohan arrives to lend assistance with Trunks by his side, all they're able to do is maybe force 16 to lend aid. Of course, the trio does still let the game escape with their lives, but with the consolation that they're going to murder Goku. After the beatdown, Piccolo gets pissed and flies to the lookout, where Kami suggests the idea of fusion. Both parties are still a bit reluctant, but it's for different reasons than the original. Kami fully trusts Piccolo, except he also enjoys having his own body, one that doesn't threaten to break from a bad cough or slight fall. He spent so long in a body that was only supported by the ki flowing through it, rather than dried up blood or water that he could barely consume without risk of choking. Now he had a body that flowed free as the water that he drank blissfully by the gallon, without fear of harm. Was he willing to give that up, even if it meant saving the world? And for Piccolo, it was losing someone who guided him, and led him down his path to becoming a good person, much like Gohan in the original. Both would be making a sacrifice, but both were willing to do so, to protect the planet they've come to love, and thus, Kamikolo was born, but we're still going to call him Piccolo. He rushes off in search of the presence that Kami had sensed terrorizing the planet for some time. After arriving in a newly formed ghost town, Piccolo sees the last of its residents being subject to a painful death, the murderer here being Cell, a monster formed of the DNA that composes all of the universe's strongest warriors. Now, a big change here from the original is that Piccolo is far stronger, and thanks to the partial loss of Kami, pissed off. After Cell sucks one of the Namekian's arms dry, he starts monologuing, discussing everything about his creation and his plans. Then Piccolo promptly rips off his arm and grows a new one, using it to massacre Cell. The beatdown here is crazy, and thanks to Piccolo being a little stronger, he ends up incinerating Cell with a Masenko. As far as Piccolo can tell, he just killed the big bad, so props to him, but we all know that's not going to pan out so well. Now, don't think this will stop Krillin and Trunks from taking care of the present Cell, because it doesn't. Piccolo knows if the Cell he killed is from a future timeline like he says, then there's one in their timeline, one that could be a real problem later. This leads to Cell being aborted. Cruel way to put it? Yeah. Is this what happened? Also yeah. But the androids are still a problem. Piccolo can only manage the second strongest one, so they've got some training to do. Trunks and Vegeta go into the time chamber while Piccolo fights 17, and he actually has a slight edge. Raditz and future Gohan fight alongside Piccolo, stopping 18 from stepping in to help. Although things take a major turn for the worse when Cell rears his ugly head. Yes folks, he's alive. I know, plot twist of the century I just cooked up. Anyway, Cell is still imperfect, as he doesn't know what perfection or semi-perfection would look like, and therefore doesn't know what that DNA would look like, and therefore adjusts to it. Instead, he just gets a whole hell of a lot stronger, comparable to a semi-perfect Cell. I know, a bit of a tangent, but still, Cell is back and stronger. He gets swift and easy revenge on Piccolo by putting his tail through Piccolo's stomach and sapping energy from him. After that, he kills Android 16 with relative ease and prepares to absorb Android 17. But before he can, Tien steps in using the Kiko Ho in conjunction with Kaioken. This absolutely tears his body apart, but it ends up doing insane damage to Cell. Tien's impressive training as well as the addition of Kaioken means he is much stronger than his original self. On top of that, semi-perfect Cell was being pressed by a much weaker rapid-fire attack. Here it does far more damage. It blows off a couple of his limbs, and even after regenerating best he can, Cell is in pretty rough shape. Tien, however, would have conserved himself. he knows his limits and wasn't intent on dying, so despite some injury, Tien's kind of fine. Not wanting to let this opportunity slip, Raditz launches in to eradicate the Bugman entirely. Not a trace would be left, and Cell would be killed, never having reached his perfection. Raditz talks to 1718, hoping to reason with them, as they were just in a tough fight, and the two listen. They agree not to kill anyone, and even ask for help readjusting to society with these crazy powers. Raditz would be more than willing to help, and the three fly up to the lookout with future Gohan carrying Piccolo. Vegeta and Trunks exit the chamber to be told that the threat has already been defeated. Goku and present Gohan still want their turn in the room though, Raditz and future Gohan taking theirs after. So, after Vegeta and Trunks show off what they've learned, Goku and Gohan enter the Room of Spirit and Time. A day on the outside passes and Goku and Gohan exit, with spiky golden hair as easy as can be. Goku would mention how Gohan tapped into something further in the room though, something incredible. Raditz and future Gohan then head into the room, set to learn this power and master it, and exit with Super Saiyan 2 at their disposal. Future Gohan tapped into it while training and was able to make use of it. Raditz soon followed and learned it for himself. Having this knowledge in hand, Vegeta would go back into the time chamber, this time with Piccolo. Gohan and Trunks returned to the future in the meantime, set to kill their version of Cell, after being informed of the Bugman. Obviously, they'd be able to defeat him and the future is saved. And as for the past, well, we'd be entering a time of peace. For the next 7 years, everybody would relax, while still keeping up their training. Vegeta would experiment with the Great Ape form, seeing if he could add Super Saiyan on top of it. It might be a long shot, but the power he would get from combining the two forms would be incredible. Plus, if anyone could do it, it'd be the Prince of the Saiyans. Goku and Gohan would mostly focus on mastering Super Saiyan 2, making sure they can use it without any stamina loss. Goku is able to do it in no time, but it takes Gohan a bit longer, seeing as he still goes to high school and doesn't train as often. Things start off relatively normal. Goku gathers the gang to participate, and Gohan is guilted into participating by Videl. With the stage set, the battles would commence, although it becomes quickly clear something weird is going on. Roshi would have entered the tournament despite no one having seen him in months, and weirder, he's paired with these two strange guys. Piccolo would recognize them as the Supreme Kai and his assistant, and after being set to fight the former of the two, he resigns. This time, Roshi is set up to fight against Kibito, rather than Gohan. He starts off by entering Kaioken times 100, something he's mastered thanks to his new divine-style training. Then, Spopovich and Yamu hop in, stabbing the hermit and sapping him of his energy before bolting away. Roshi is healed, and it's revealed this was all part of the plan. Now they'll be able to find Babidi. Everyone then follows the wizard's lackeys close behind. This is all while Supreme Kai exposition dumps everything the gang needs to know. Once arriving at Babidi's spaceship, a fight would ensue, after the energy canister is handed over to the wizard, of course. Deborah tries to petrify Roshi and Piccolo, but the Turtle Master knew of this trick from his masters and quickly dodges, prompting Piccolo to do the same. Not that he needed much prompting, I doubt anyone wants to get spit on in this situation. With a quick 200 times Kamehameha, Deborah is instantly eradicated, although Roshi is slightly drained in the process. Babidi teleports away while the Z-Fighters enter his ship. They easily dispatch of Pui Pui and Yakon before then descending further below. Thanks to the swift defeat of his minions, Babidi doesn't have nearly enough energy to revive Boo, and thus, he's killed. Sadly, this means there is no Boo saga, but honestly, with the number of strong fighters here, I don't think that would have been a problem anyway. Either way, the world of Dragon Ball returns to peace for another 4 to 6 months. When this time passes, a certain purple kitty cat wakes up from his nap. He'd roll out of bed and stumble down the flights of stairs that circled the inside of his home. Stepping into the aquarium-style kitchen, the Catman sits down at his royal table in his floating chair. With his PJs on, he begins digging into a massive feast prepared by his angel attendant, and a man wearing a turtle shell on his back. The Catman is revealed to be the god of destruction. His name is Lord Beerus. He'd ask about the new guy on his planet, and Whis, his angel, would reveal that this is Mutan Roshi, a student of the Kais. He had been training under the lower gods for quite some time, and wished to work his way up the pecking order. Beerus stares him down while fiddling with an oversized egg in his hand. As a showing of dominance, the Destroyer does as his namesake implies, and erases the egg from existence with a single tap. Roshi falls back a step in fear while attempting to still appear calm, forcing down a knot that had curled in his throat. Beerus laughs. It's always so much fun when they're still afraid of you. The god looks at Roshi again. This man reminds him of something. Some race of monkey men. What were their names again? Oh, right, the Saiyans. And more importantly, the Super Saiyan God. Of course, he had never interacted with this Super Saiyan God directly, but he had a dream about a Saiyan that had the powers of a deity. But was that even possible? A mere mortal that rivaled powers of his own? This is a question that Beerus would be discussing with himself out loud, while munching on some fish. Whis would step in, saying that there are a few Saiyans on Earth, and Roshi speaks up as well. He tells his superior that there's more than a few Saiyans there, and they all have a transformation called Super Saiyan. Excited about this news, Beerus proclaims that they're heading to Earth, and he's going to find his greatest rival. It takes a while, but they arrive on the planet, and with Roshi's help, they locate the Dragon Gang. It's Bulma's birthday, and everybody is celebrating, Goku included. In fact, Goku and Raditz would be sparring as entertainment for the party. After a quiet cough to clear his throat, Beerus calls out to the fighting brothers. At first, they ignore it and continue their battle, but then Roshi raises his voice, and Goku immediately stops. Raditz doesn't, and lands a clean hit on his brother's jaw, but then realizes the pause and apologizes. The two lower down to the ship deck, Goku rubbing his chin up to his cheek while they start talking. Beerus asks if they are currently using Super Saiyan, to which they say no. They were remaining in base and holding back a bit so everyone could follow the fight. The God is impressed by this, saying that even so, as they are now, they're still probably strong enough to defeat Frieza. Raditz laughs, saying that they already did that a while ago. It took them Super Saiyan before, but now they probably wouldn't even need full power in base. Shocked by this, Beerus requests to see this Super Saiyan power that he has been tempted by for so long. The older of the two brothers steps up, powering up into the golden-haired form, and then, beyond that, into Super Saiyan 2. Raditz says that to let him in on a little secret, Goku can go to a form even further beyond this one. But even so, Raditz is still stronger. Honestly, he probably could use the form, but judging by how the form looks, it'd mean he needs a haircut, which just isn't on the table. Beerus chuckles at this and says to use whatever form he likes. As long as he can provide a challenge, he'll be pleased. In a brilliant flash, Raditz appears behind the god and throws an axe kick at the back of Beerus' head. The Destroyer blocks this by taking a step forward, causing the Saiyan to stumble. Taking advantage of this, he uses the momentum of the fall to push a headbutt against the back of the Destroyer's dome. Impressed by the adaptation, Beerus increases his power, even slightly, and lands a chop on Raditz's arm, breaking bone. Tights would rush over to help her husband, but Piccolo stops her, saying that wouldn't be the best idea. Raditz falls down, snarling in pain, but he still stands up, and charges an attack with his good arm. Whis comments about his persistence, and Goku seconds this, saying that no matter how hurt he is, Raditz wouldn't stop after one good hit. Beerus prepares a small blast to counter Raditz's, but shockingly Raditz makes several copies of himself, a technique he learned from Paibara. Each Raditz fires a Shining Friday. The attacks land, but Beerus is seemingly unharmed. Then Raditz rapid fires Ki blasts, all landing on the god but having no effect, purple Ki wrapping around them as if to protect the destroyer. Realizing how little of an effect the energy attacks are, he makes all the clones do rapid-fire punches, each having just as insignificant of an effect. Then Raditz absorbs the clones back into himself, before smirking and popping a senzu. With his power fully restored, he says that now maybe they can have a real fight. Beerus is admittedly shocked by the bravado, but then Raditz throws a punch that lands and actually kind of hurts. The purple glow flows off of Beerus again, this time shown to spread off of the destroyer over Raditz's arm, as it turns red. Then the Saiyan lands multiple heavy shots on the destroyer, each as effective, with the same Ki surge on each connection. After another successful blow, Beerus stops the next hit, by grabbing Raditz's fist. He explains that he figured out what Raditz was doing, and it's smart. He knew the power difference and was taking advantage of it. He knew that Beerus was way out of his league, and would let hits connect. And while he was, Raditz was sapping his godly Ki, and evening the playing field. Raditz rips his hand back and says that the Destroyer God is correct, but he has no idea what God Ki is. Beerus laughs. Of course he wouldn't know what God Ki is, yet he was still utilizing it the second the Shining Friday connected. Then Beerus coats his hand in godly energy, and summons it to above the palm of his hand. He tells Raditz to absorb it. He'll need it if he wants to stand a chance in a real fight. This is how he's going to become a Super Saiyan God. Beerus knows it. And even though he is prideful, Raditz isn't Goku or Vegeta. He's okay with taking shortcuts if he means he gets stronger himself. So, with a fast strike, Raditz shatters the ball of Ki, the fragments circling around him and engulfing him. After a few moments, the fragments expand and cover his entire body in a brilliant white light. After sparks of lightning circle around him, the white light cracks and explodes outwards, revealing a skinnier and more refined Raditz. His hair is ruby red and his power is incredible, despite being impossible to sense by any normal fighter. As everyone watches in astonishment, Beerus keeps getting more and more hyped up, a purple aura flaring around him. Raditz asks if this means the Destroyer is going to show him the real power of a god, and Beerus flies into the air, gesturing for Raditz to do the same, as he says he'll do much more than show him. The energy of the gods is flowing through both of their veins. Once the two clash, his battle spirit will fly free like never before. With a chuckle, Raditz tells him to stop trying to sell it, and get to fighting already, flying into the air to follow Beerus. Then, for the next few hours out in space, the two godly fighters clash blows, each hit sending ripples across the very universe. Their powers are a league above anything the Z-Fighters have ever seen before, and Raditz is loving this. When the battle ends and both combatants have had their fun, Raditz still has his godly powers, so if he wants, the Saiyan can begin godly training whenever. But as he gazes down on the Earth from up in space, he thinks about life. Well, his life, on this planet. How it started, with him trying to conquer it, and now he's a god who's risked his life multiple times to defend it. It's funny how much has changed in his life because he went out to find his brother, and how he almost died in the process. Had that happened, his life would have ended with him as some one-note bad guy for the Earth, yet now he's a god watching over it. And that's where I'm ending things for now. Of course, I do plan to continue this story into Super, but this seems like a good stopping point. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please smash that subscribe button, and watch some other videos of mine. It'd help out the channel a lot, but if you don't want to, that's fine. You just watched, what, an hour-long video of me talking, and of course the Minecraft footage. By the way, if you like that, tell me in the comments. I'm not sure exactly how people feel about it, but I think it's a nice way to save me some time editing and you get some interesting visuals. Either way, I'm dragging this outro out long enough. I've padded the runtime with this very, very long story. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed. And I'll talk to you later. This is, always has been, and always will be the Irishman. Talk to you later. Bye.